Module 2 of the North State Arts Education Consortium's Professional Learning Series. In this module, we'll be focusing on assessment as a vital part of quality instruction in the arts. In this module, we will discuss elements of effective summative assessments. We'll analyze an example summative assessment, and we'll explore tools and strategies for developing summative assessments. Our professional learning modules are structured around developing arts-focused and arts-integrated lesson plans. While we know that summative assessments come at the end of a lesson, we'll be jumping right to the end with backward planning in mind. It's important as teachers to know what we want students to know and be able to do, and how they will demonstrate their learning before we can plan the activities that will take them there. Before we discuss how to develop effective assessments, however, we want to address some of the myths that exist around the connection between assessment and the arts. There are a lot of them out there. One persistent myth is that all art is subjective, so assessing whether art is quality or not is entirely based on opinion. However, all art forms are subject to objective criteria that scholars, critics, and even lay people use to discuss their relative value. It's vital that we share these criteria with students so they know what to aim for in their work as artists. Another myth is that art in schools is always about the end product. The art gallery in your classroom that you prepare for back-to-school night, the band concert, the theater performance that students practice for the end of the year production. This places undue value on the end product when real artists know the process is just as important. As teachers, we can show our students the value of process and practice and give them benchmarks along the way to show them how they're doing. A third persistent myth is that assessment can be contradictory to the artistic process. In other words, giving tests and exams will squash students' engagement in and passion for the arts. However, effective formative and summative assessments are vital to communicating with students what they're doing well and where they need to grow and practice in their work as artists. So, as teachers, we can be part of confronting the myths around art as just a fun enrichment activity or just the elective students can choose when the more important coursework has been covered. And we can help create new perspectives on the arts as rigorous and engaging and a vital part of student learning. As you begin thinking about developing the summative assessment for your lesson plan, keep in mind that assessment in the arts should include a consideration of these three elements. The first is the content knowledge that you're passing along to your students. The second is the process or the steps that will lead to successful attainment of the learning goals. The third is production or the final products that students will be creating as musicians, sculptors, or artists in your classroom. Before we proceed, let's define our terms and work toward an understanding of formative versus summative assessment. They are very different, yet equally vital elements in student learning. Formative assessments are used to conduct those in-process evaluations of student comprehension, learning needs, and academic progress that happen during the lesson, unit, or course. This could be a low-stakes quiz, an exit ticket, or a thumbs-up, thumbs-down check-in of student understanding that's used by the teacher to adjust instruction in real time. Summative assessment comes at the end of a defined instructional period and is used to evaluate student learning, skill acquisition, and academic achievement. Again, this comes at the conclusion of a unit or lesson. This quote from assessment guru Paul Black might help define the concepts. When the cook tastes the soup, that's formative assessment. In other words, there's still time for the student to add salt or pepper or continue working or practicing. When the customer tastes the soup, that's summative assessment. In other words, that's the end of the learning cycle. So with formative assessment, students can continue to revise, build on, and practice their work. With summative assessment, the student has definitively demonstrated the extent to which he or she has mastered the learning objectives. Let's talk a bit about quality assessment in the arts. What does it look like? What could it look like in your classroom? Here are some criteria that have been suggested by the Sesesa Arts Initiative. So summative assessment should have an insistence on excellence. Again, affirming that learning in the arts is not just a fun activity, but an opportunity for students to excel as learners. It should value the importance of self-assessment. So great teachers don't just assess their students, they give students opportunities to reflect on their progress and articulate what they're doing well and where they need to grow. Great teachers give multiple forms of assessment, so we should be allowing for students to demonstrate what they know in a variety of ways. Assessment should be ongoing. This should be an iterative process with many opportunities to check in, revise, practice, reflect, and grow. Next up in Module 2, we'll give you concrete tools and strategies for developing your summative assessment.